A tiny pair of claws slides out from the shadow between two old book pages, and for a second, everything about it feels wrong. It moves with the shape of a scorpion, low and deliberate, its little pincers held forward as it crosses the paper like it owns the sentence beneath it. The book has been sitting in a drawer for months. There is dust along the spine, a faint smell of paper, maybe a little moisture, trapped where the wood meets the wall. Then this speck-sized thing appears, shaped like a creature that should belong under a desert rock, not inside a book. The first instinct is simple. Crush it. A scorpion-shaped animal indoors feels like a warning. Claws mean danger. Sudden movement means infestation. Something crawling out of a book feels like the start of a problem, and the smaller it is, the easier it is to erase before thinking about it. But this is exactly the moment to stop. That tiny creature is almost certainly not a baby scorpion. It is a pseudoscorpion, sometimes called a book scorpion, and despite the fierce outline, it is harmless to people. It has no tail. It has no stinger. It cannot deliver the kind of injury its shape makes the mind imagine. Most are only a few millimeters long, small enough to look like a moving comma until the claws come into focus. The shape is the trick. A true scorpion carries its most famous weapon at the end of a curved tail. A pseudoscorpion has the front half of that silhouette, the pincers and the armored little body, but the entire rear threat is missing. There is no raised tail waiting to strike. There is no venomous barb aimed upward. There is just a tiny arachnid built for a world far smaller than hands, shelves, and floorboards. And that changes the meaning of finding one in a book. It is not there to eat the pages. It is not chewing through the cover or damaging the binding like some household pests can. It is there because something even smaller may already be living in that quiet, dusty space. Book lice, dust mites, springtails, tiny larvae, minute creatures that feed on mold, starches, organic debris, or the invisible film that gathers wherever paper, humidity, and still air meet. The pseudoscorpion is not the disaster. It may be the patrol. Inside the narrow gap between pages, under bark, in leaf litter, in soil, in bird nests, in stored papers, or along an undisturbed shelf, a hidden ecosystem can form at a scale most people never notice. Dust becomes habitat. Moisture changes the rules. Mold feeds one kind of tiny animal, and that animal becomes food for another. By the time a pseudoscorpion steps into sight, it has likely been hunting through a landscape that looked empty a moment before. Those claws are not a warning meant for humans. They are tools for seizing prey, almost too small to see. To a dust mite or a book louse, this little animal is a serious predator. To a person, it is just a harmless speck with dramatic equipment. That is why the impulse to crush it gets the story backward. The frightening part is only the outline. The real role is hidden in its scale. A creature that looks like an intruder may actually be cleaning up the miniature life that gathers in forgotten corners. It is not announcing danger. It is revealing that a book, a drawer, or a shelf can be more alive than it appears. So when that tiny scorpion shape crosses the page, the better question is not, how do I kill it? The better question is, what is it hunting? Follow the claws, and the creature stops looking like a warning sign and starts looking like a machine built for a very small job. A pseudoscorpion is an arachnid, related to spiders, mites, ticks, and true scorpions, but it is not an insect, and it is not a young scorpion waiting to grow a tail. It belongs to its own order, Pseudoscorpiones, and most of its life happens in spaces too narrow for larger predators to enter. Its front pincers are actually enlarged pedipalps, and they work like precision tools. When a mite, book louse, springtail, or tiny larva brushes past, the pseudoscorpion can grab it with those claws and hold it still. In some species, venom glands are connected to one or both pincers, but that venom is made for microscopic prey. Against a human hand, it means almost nothing. This animal is not trying to bite you. It is not medically dangerous. It is not poisoning your books, your furniture, or your food. It is using dramatic-looking equipment on prey so small that the battle usually happens in silence. That is what makes its appearance in a book so revealing. An old book is not just paper if it has been stored in a damp drawer or left untouched on a dusty shelf. The glue, cardboard, paper fibers, dust, and tiny traces of mold can support other creatures. Book lice, also called saucids, may feed on mold, starches, and organic debris. Dust mites and other minute arthropods can gather where humidity stays high and air does not move well. Their presence does not always mean a dirty home. Sometimes it only means moisture, stillness, and time. The pseudoscorpion arrives where the food is. It is not eating the paper the way some pests might damage materials. It is hunting the animals that are living around the paper. The book has become a landscape, with valleys between pages, caves along the spine, and dust fields under the cover. What looked like an object on a shelf is, at this scale, a habitat. And the hunter is built for it. Many pseudoscorpions rely more on touch, vibration, and close-range cues than on sharp vision. Some species have reduced eyes or poor eyesight because in soil, bark, caves, leaf litter, nests, and stored materials, sight is not always the most useful sense. The world they move through is crowded with fibers, grit, cracks, and shadows. Speed matters, but so does grip. A flat little body helps them slip into tight places. The pincers let them seize prey before it disappears into a crevice. So the same shape that seems frightening on a book page becomes sensible in context. The claws are not decoration. They are not a threat display for a person. They are the main tools of a predator living in a hidden food web, regulating tiny populations that most people only notice when there are too many of them. Then the creature gets stranger. A pseudoscorpion can make silk, but not like a web-building spider stretched across a corner. Its silk comes from glands associated with the chelicerae near its mouthparts, and it uses that silk in secret. It can build a tiny chamber in a protected place, a small shelter for molting, overwintering, or reproduction. A female may carry developing young in a brood sac attached near her abdomen, and the young may stay with her briefly before dispersing into the cracks and dust around them. This tiny scorpion-shaped hunter is not a simple speck of panic. It has shelter, development, timing, and a life hidden almost entirely from view. Some even travel in a way that sounds impossible for something found in a book. When walking is too slow and the next suitable habitat is too far away, certain pseudoscorpions use foracy. They grip a larger insect with their pincers and ride. A fly, beetle, bee, or other arthropod becomes transportation, not food. The pseudoscorpion is not parasitizing the carrier. It is hitchhiking, using another body to cross distances its own legs could never manage easily. So if one appears indoors, the answer is not panic. Do not crush it. Leave it alone, or move it gently with a sheet of paper or a soft brush. If you keep seeing them, look for the conditions that feed their prey. Humidity, dust, mold, damp cardboard, stored papers, or poorly ventilated shelves. Lower the moisture. Clean the dust. Air out the space. Avoid spraying insecticide just because a harmless predator showed itself. The creature on the page is not the enemy. It is a clue with claws. Now return to the book, to that first small movement across the page, and let the image change. The claws are still there. The body is still shaped like something ancient and armored. It still moves with that sudden, deliberate confidence that makes the hand want to come down before the mind catches up. But now, the page is not just a page. It is a pale landscape. The dust in the fold is not just dirt. It is cover. The dark seam near the spine is not just a crack. It is a corridor. And the tiny scorpion-shaped creature is not invading the book. It is patrolling it. That is the entire shift. At the beginning, the outline did all the talking. Claws meant danger. A scorpion shape meant venom. Something unexpected in a drawer meant a problem that needed to be eliminated. But pseudoscorpions expose how often instinct reacts to a shape before it understands a role. This animal looks like a threat because it borrows the visual language of one. Pincers, armor, quickness, a low hunting posture. Yet the part that would make a scorpion dangerous to a person is missing. No tail, no stinger, no reason to treat it like an emergency. The same claws that first looked alarming are the reason it is useful. They are the tools it uses against creatures smaller than itself. Book lice grazing on mold and starches, dust mites moving through debris, tiny larvae tucked into quiet places. Its presence may be telling a quieter story about the space around it. Maybe a shelf has stayed too humid. Maybe a box of papers has trapped moisture. Maybe dust and still air have allowed a miniature food web to form where nothing seemed to be happening at all. The pseudoscorpion is not proof that a home is filthy. It is not a sign that the book is doomed. It is not chewing the pages into ruin. More often, it is evidence that life at a hidden scale has found the right conditions, and that one of the predators of that hidden life has followed. That is why crushing it solves the wrong problem. If it disappears under a thumb or tissue, the moisture remains. The dust remains. The book lice or mites it was hunting may remain. The only thing removed is a harmless animal that was helping to regulate a world too small to see clearly. The better response is slower and more useful. Pause. Look again. If it is in the way, lift it gently on a piece of paper and set it outside or into a protected corner. Then check the shelf, the drawer, the cardboard box, the stored papers. Feel for dampness. Look for mold. Improve airflow. Lower humidity. Clean the dust that feeds the system underneath the obvious one. That small act of restraint matters because the pseudoscorpion is not the only creature misread this way. Homes are full of brief encounters with animals out of context. A spider in a sink, a beetle near a window, a silver speck under a box, a strange movement in old paper. Some are pests. Some are harmless wanderers. Some are predators quietly removing the pests. Fear compresses all of them into one category, but attention separates them again. A bookshelf can hold more than books. It can hold paper, glue, dust, moisture, mold, prey, predator, shelter, and survival. Under bark, in leaf litter, in soil, in nests, and sometimes in the quiet drawer beside a bed, the same kind of hidden drama continues without notice. The pseudoscorpion is a reminder that even ordinary places are layered. What looks empty at human scale may be crowded with signals, trails, ambushes, and lives small enough to vanish into punctuation. So when the tiny shape crosses the page again, do not let the first second decide everything. Let it walk. Let those pincers mean what they really mean. Not a threat to you, but a hunter at work in a world beneath attention. The creature that looked like something to crush becomes something to spare. Not because it is cute, not because it belongs in the book in any sentimental way, but because it is harmless, specialized, and useful, and because understanding a thing should change what the hand does next. The old instinct says, kill the little scorpion. The better instinct says, wait. Look closer. There is no stinger raised above that tiny body. There is only a predator moving across a paper landscape, cleaning the hidden corners one nearly invisible hunt at a time.